What's going on, guys? Today we're bringing back another episode, and today we're talking about AM training versus PM training and the pros and cons of both. And then after that, we'll follow it up with just a brief how to get the most out of each training. So stay tuned, and I'm going to get started with AM, and I'm going to start with my pros. So for AM training, probably one of the top things. Or benefits of training first thing in the morning is it's a really good way to get your day started. When you wake up and you get that first thing just knocked out, especially something like exercise, it promotes a good rest of the day, and you've checked one item off your list. You've gotten active, you've gotten your heart rate up, you've stimulated your brain. It's going to help kind of take you through the rest of your day. In a good fashion. It's a step in the right direction when you first start your day. So that's probably one of my top pros for training in the morning. The next thing that is a benefit to training in the morning is that there's not really anything that is going to come up and get in the way of you doing your training session. So if you're assuming, we're talking about a work day, which is, 8 to 5, 9 to 5. If you're training in the morning, this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, 5 a.m., 6 a.m. training. Not too many other things get scheduled at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. So it's very unlikely that something will come up that's important that is going to get in the way of your training session. So that's another positive to it. And then my last one is going to be that you can take stimulants, pre-workout, anything, and it's not going to affect your sleep later on in the day. So that's probably my top pros for training in the morning. I'm going to let Brandon cover his pros for training in the evening PM, and then I'll come back and hit my cons for AM training. So Brandon, if you want to cover your pros for the
Awesome.
evening.
Of course. Thank you, Brady.
Yep.
So if we're talking about like a typical 9 to 5, generally speaking, once you get off work and you're someone who can actually kind of, relax a little bit, your headspace will definitely be there. So you'll have a good amount of focus typically after work. But the most important thing, in my opinion, is going to be just the fact that you'll have all of those meals in. So you don't really have to worry too much about energy and not having energy for that workout. And also kind of after work, you'll also be at your strongest, in my opinion. I'm a lot more focused. I definitely have a drive to train after work. And, that will just allow your headspace to just be a lot more clear. And you'll actually be able to kind of warm up properly, get in the zone for your lift, and really not worry about anything kind of getting in the way.
Cool, man. All right. So those are some good pros for the evening training. For cons, it's funny that the cons for AM training are almost the exact opposite of the pros for PM training. So the biggest con for AM training is just the fact that you're not going to have food in you, which is not, energy expenditure is pretty big, and having energy to go and output in your lift. When you train in the morning, you haven't taken in as much food. Now, and later in this video, I'll talk about how to kind of get around that a little bit. But that's the major con for training in the AM, is that you just don't have any meals in you yet. Now you can get up and get a meal, but having one meal versus having, 3 meals in before your training session, there's going to be a difference there. The next con is if you want to stay safe, you're going to have to take more time to warm up, just because you haven't had the time throughout the day to, move your joints around, go through some full ranges of motion, let your muscles just warm up through general daily activity, moving around, walking, any of those sorts of things. So you're going to have to take more time to warm up. And, it's a minor con, but it's something that's worth noting. Just because you might have to schedule more time for your workout so you can properly get your joints and muscles acclimated to what you're about to put it through. And then the third one is just going to be that your general output is probably going to be a little bit lower. And that's because of what I just talked about in the first 2 points, was that you have a little bit less food in you, and your body hasn't fully warmed up. If you take your time in your warm up, you'll be in a good spot to still lift safely, but you still won't have the energy to actually output at your maximum capacity. So that's just kind of the cons to training in the AM. They aren't, none of these cons are going to be make or break for anything. You can do either. But I'm going to let Brandon talk through his cons first before I get into some other stuff.
Yeah. And another thing that I'm also realizing is it's also going to be dependent on the person you are, the kind of job that you have, what you're doing throughout your day. So
Yeah.
For this PM training, the pros and cons can actually be very similar. So the cons for training after work, I know a lot of my friends at the gym, they're maintenance workers, they work on rooftops, they're, maybe they're working in like the tree department, they work a lot and they're using their hands, they're walking a lot, they're using a lot of energy. And I also, on the same side, or on the other side of the token, some people just have desk jobs the entire day. They're very stagnant. I think the most important thing is going to be how well you can kind of get into that frame of mind and how well you treat your warm-ups and things like that. So some cons for PM training, especially if you're someone who is super active all day long. The first thing that I usually hear out of all of my friends' mouths if they are on their feet all day is, man, it was a long day. So they're like super tired just because they've used their body a lot. So you got to make sure that, you've gotten a little meal in. And some people have really stressful jobs. So that can really take you out of your mind. The gym, when it's gym time, it's gym time. It's not really time to think about work. So if you've been super focused or if you had a really hectic day at work, it was super stressful, that can carry on into your gym day and that can really mess things up for you. So you're gonna have to do some things, whether it's like right before your training or right in the beginning of your training to kind of get into the zone, so to speak. So sometimes you can experience like a loss of focus, a loss of drive. Your mindset might not be there. And for some of like the super late night workers or the super late night workouters, I should say, if you're taking pre-workout, you'll probably find that it's a little hard to get to bed. Also, if you're working out really late, because I know that some guys come through around like that 10 p.m. Time frame, you're also running the risk of injury. It's going to be a little bit harder for you to get a pump. It's going to be a little bit harder for you to kind of warm up and get ready for these lifts. And similarly, you're not going to be in the same, state of mind to really push yourself maximally if it's really late, right? You're probably not going to be as hyped up as it would be kind of like a midday training. So those are my cons that I would say.
Cool. Yeah, I don't have anything to add to that. So now let's just kind of break down on both sides. How can we get the most out of, both styles or both training times, right? Because some people only have one option. So let's make sure that, we can do them to the best of our ability, right? So for the AM, I really just have two things that if you can kind of cover these, you'll be in a pretty good spot to progress and keep training hard and, just be acclimated to training in the morning and reduce those cons. The first one is going to be the night before your final meal should be probably one of your biggest meals. You're trying to put as much energy into your body as you can in that final meal so that it will carry over into your workout in the morning. And if you pair it with an intra workout, then probably has some carbs in it, you'll be in a really good spot to kind of do your best that you can. And then the other part to that is consistently training in the morning, right? If you're going to train in the morning, keep training in the morning because, and this is just from a progress standpoint, you have to set yourself a baseline of what your general output is. And if you're constantly switching between AM and PM training, what your total output or your maximum output is going to be completely different because of the things that we've talked about in this video, right? So if you're going to train in the morning, keep training in the morning so that that's your baseline to progress from, so that you can keep tacking on to what you did the last time you trained in the morning and not what the last time you did in the evening, right? Because you're going to have different outcomes.
Yeah.
So just keep it consistent, and you'll kind of regulate to training in the morning, and most of the cons that I listed will kind of start to go away.
Yep.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's kind of how you get the most out of AM training.
Yeah.
How about PM?
And when it comes to PM training, I would treat them very similarly because I mean, outside of like the whole meal thing, but like you said, the consistency is really going to be the key. Like if you're an AM trainer and then all of a sudden you get caught with a PM training session, things are going to be a little off, if not a lot off. So consistency is really going to be the thing that kind of helps you out. So baseline, I think you should treat all of your sessions the same. You're going to have to kind of tweak things between your AM and your PM, like meal timing and things like that, like especially getting that meal in right before. That was a really great thing that you just said there, Brady. That was awesome. So when it comes to PM training, I think mindset is going to be a big thing, kind of learning how to turn off the work brain and get into the workout mode, and warming up properly. So those are going to be like the two major things, just making sure that you're taking time, you're getting in the zone, and you can kind of carry out your lifts because, you've already got those meals in, and it's really going to be, your body's ready for whatever you're about to throw at it, especially if you're a consistent PM trainer. The thing that you need to do is just get in the right mental mindset. Now, if you're someone who is working like a dog, you're like in that maintenance category, or you work a maintenance job, you're on your feet all day, you're using your hands. Again, using an intro workout, making sure that you get a pre-workout meal in, those things are going to be critical for, just the amount of energy that you'll have during your workout. So you want to make sure that those levels are up. But in my opinion, it's really going to come down to, turning the work brain off, getting into the mindset to work out, and then just making sure that you're doing everything properly in terms of warming up. You're doing your drills, and you're not just saying screw it and just stepping under a bar cold, just because you had a long day.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I think the overarching theme there is you just kind of have to be consistent. Whichever one you choose, you stick to it, and you'll find kind of what vibes with you, and over time you refine the process to make it work best for you. Um, and that's ironically that's kind of the key to all of this,
Mm-hmm.
is finding which one jives with you best. Because even though maybe for optimum output, PM training is better, but you just happen to feel better in the morning, you'll probably train better in the morning. So it's kind of finding whichever one's going to work best for you. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video. Let us know down in the comments, are you an AM trainer or a PM trainer, or are you midday? We didn't even talk about that one. That's personally my preference, is to train midday, but we won't get into that. So anyway, thank you guys for watching, following along the channel. If you haven't or you've forgotten, hit that subscribe button. It's just down in the corner, and we'll catch you guys with another video in a couple of days. All right, everybody, have a good one.
Peace.